everyone. I'm Rachel, here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 294, and we're asking, how can you budget for your author career? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. But if you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. And for that, you'll have access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, and it all helps to support the show. But of course, if that's not your style and you still enjoy the show, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already, and consider dropping us a like if you're watching on YouTube. Now, again, before we start, I do just want to say that Ari and I, we are not lawyers, we're not accountants, we don't know what we're talking about. So if you have any questions about anything that we say in this episode, please consult, a legal professional or accountant or whatever. Do your own research in your area. I wanted to talk about author career budgeting because we've discussed budgeting for your book before on the show. Believe it or not, that was episode 130 from September of 2022. I thought it was a lot more recent than that, but time is lost on me and I have no concept of calendars anymore. So here we are. I am going to recap that episode briefly, although I am going to link it below in the description. So if you haven't heard it or you need a refresher, please do give it a listen because I'm pretty sure it was a good one. I think we knew what we were talking about. That episode was mostly about budgeting for a single book release and the money that you put towards one book. And that includes all stages of editing, the copyright, depending on where you are in the world, the ISBN, the barcode, formatting software, or you can hire someone to do it for you, and marketing, which is something that we'll touch upon more in this episode. And there's also book cover design, which I will let Ari explain.
Yeah, I think when we originally mentioned about book cover design, it's more paying for a designer to come and design the book cover because you'd need an ebook and a paperback and a hardback and all that jazz. However, there's something I don't think we touched on because I feel like I only just learned about it recently. And that is a lot of book cover designers, they use elements of like stock photos from places like Pexels and Shutterstock and all like that. Which is fine because they come with certain licenses. However, if you go into a lot of book cover designers' FAQs, because that's what I've been doing a lot recently, you'll actually find that the standard licenses that come with those elements that are often made up into a book cover design only cover the book for a certain number of sales. So if you exceed that number, I don't know what it is, I'm just going to push out a number, this is probably not right, but say you exceeded 5,000 sales, and those licenses were only up to 4,999, then any extra sales you have to buy extended licenses. And I think that's not something that people think about. You might think, oh, I know about licensing if I want to use my book cover or my designs on marketing equipment or like merch. Certain designers, they create the image and it's for the book cover. Sometimes you have to double check that they are giving you the option to use it to put it on merch. If not, you have to buy an extra license for that from the designer. You have to kind of keep track of your sales because, as I said, certain aspects of the book cover, certain elements that they use only have a standard license and you may need more. It might be that you never hit that big number because I don't even know if it's like 5,000. It might be like 500,000. I don't know. I can't remember, even though I read it about 3 days ago. It's already gone.
I think it's 2,000. I might be wrong about that. I think so. I want to say it's 2,000 because this was something that I didn't know about either until I went through 99 Designs to get my cover for Apparitions Anonymous. And in the brief, it asked if I wanted stock images. So I clicked on the Learn More button because I was like, I don't know what I would have to pay for that. And yeah, Ari's right. You need to buy the licensing for it. And if your designer uses multiple stock images and those images are by multiple people, well, now you have all these different licenses that you got to buy. And if you sell more than the 2,000 or whatever the threshold is, you would have to renew all those different licenses. So yeah, there's sneaky fees that can add up and appear like seemingly out of nowhere. But there you are, just a quick little add-on for you. Overall, the money you spent on a book can easily add up to a couple $1,000s. It's not fun. So what about your author career? Buckle up, guys, because this is going to be a long one. Author budgeting and book budgeting are different. If your goal is to be a full-time author, then your author career is a business. You need business planning and think like a business owner when it comes to finances. Finances for your author career is obviously different from each book because essentially your book is your business's product. Sure, the book will be on your income sheet, but it'll also be on your expenses sheet, hence the book budgeting episode. You need to spend money in order to create your product or your book so you can sell it for hopefully a profit or passive income or whatever your income goals are. And budgeting for your author career is different from book budgeting because it's not about the project, it's not about the product, so to speak. It's about the business and how to build it and how to maintain it and all of the fun legal stuff that comes with it. So let's dive into the finances of your author career. And I'm going to start with the expenses because that's the hefty one. First, there are book creation expenses. Again, we discussed this already and we just recapped it. So we're not going to go over that, but there are the expenses to create your products. Next, there's office supplies, assuming you're working from home, of course. I mean, if you're an author and especially an indie author, I assume you're writing from home. So you'll need to set up a desk. You'll need to get a computer, desk chair, computer or laptop, printer, ink, paper, notebooks, pens, basically general office supplies, whatever you need to make notes and do research.
As well as all the physical products like that, one of the other things you need to think of, and this is a very important, is a way to back up your work. So unless you're writing on a typewriter, you are going to need some form of backup. And we've mentioned this before in another episode. I will try and remember and we can add it to the links. But you're best with at least two. One should be something like a cloud system that, if possible, syncs up every day. So as soon as you're writing, it's like pulling it up. The other one should be a physical media, which could be a hard drive, like a terabyte drive, could be pen drives. They're not very big, so maybe stick something more sturdy. Something physical that you can keep safely, because cloud systems can go wrong. They can fail. I have had that. I had one, I think it was Just Cloud, I'm just going to name it, and the files corrupted on the cloud. That was not great. Thankfully, I also had my backups in a physical copy, so I do say if you're going to have backups, have them everywhere. But if you're looking at cloud, you've got Google Drive storage, Dropbox, things like that. Is it Google One is also a thing? There's mega.nz. I think I used to use that. I don't know anymore. It's sometimes you forget how many you've got, but you need to have it organized. But yeah, you need to keep it organized. You need to keep it dated. You need to have multiple copies of, like, don't just keep uploading the same, like overwriting information. Try and have other versions just in case. All it takes is one thing to corrupt. But yeah, you're thinking about redundancies to catch the problem. So cloud backup, physical backup, definitely have to have more if you want. Just keep track of where it is.
No, that's a really, really good point. And honestly, sometimes I email things to myself, but obviously I have a Gmail account, so that can really eat up the storage, in which case you would need to buy more Google storage. And yeah, so that's another sneaky added cost because they always only give you like 5 gigabytes to start. Next, and I'm only going to talk about this briefly because we've exhausted this topic probably. You're going to need an author website. And I know some authors get away with not having a website, but Ari and I, our opinion, you need a website. And websites are a solid investment because you'll need to pay for hosting. You'll need to pay your domain name, any plugins that you may want or need. And actually, some plugins individually will have a one-time fee or a subscription. So those can add up. Email list provider. A lot of those are free to start up until like a certain amount of subscribers. But once you reach that threshold, you'll have to start paying a subscription. So that's fun. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth with this. You could also hire a professional web designer or web developer to help you, which is a cost. We had Pauline Wiles on the show in episode 190 back in 2023. She builds websites for authors and was kind enough to share her expertise on the show. So if you want to learn more about website building and that process, you can go listen to that episode. I'll link it below. Other expenses that you can assume to have as an author, business owner, That was a good sentence. Education. You'll probably want to invest in business courses, accounting courses, writing and editing courses, because there's always something new to learn. I understand that as a writer, doing actual writing and that's probably the best experience because it's the best hands-on experience, but also it's good to have, that education under your belt to take courses. As long as you do your research on the courses, you can go back to school and do that. If you find courses from authors or influencers on the internet, some of them are good, but not all of them. Just saying. But also you could buy textbooks or just any books for, improving your skills, learning, and also for research. And speaking of research, you can take random courses for research too. We've talked about this before. If you need to learn more about archery for your characters, if your character has bow and arrows, you could take archery classes. So not only is it fun, I mean, it is fun, but it's an added cost. But hey, you'll learn something new. It'll be for your books and you'll learn something new. And then we have the fun stuff, which is networking and marketing. And you have your writing conferences, which a lot of times you got to buy tickets for, so that's a cost. And then you can also enter contests, competitions, and awards for your writing. You can submit your books to awards, or you can join writing contests and write something new for them. And those usually have a submission fee. So that's something. And you can also get memberships to various organizations that will help you network with other authors. And organizations include the Alliance of Independent Authors, the Authors Guild, Mystery Writers of America, Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, and so much more. If you need to find something that fits your skill level or your genre, just do a quick Google search. A bunch of them will show up. Again, make sure they're legit. I highly doubt there are many writing organizations out there that aren't legit, but just, a lot of those memberships can be pricey and they're usually, a subscription. So just, again, do your research and be careful with it. And also when it comes to marketing, working with influencers such as bookstagrammers and whatnot, some of them do charge to help promote your book. And any book marketing platform you plaster your book on, such as Book Sirens, Readsy Discovery, Carcass Reviews, All Author, those are all costs as well. Some of them charge per book, others are a subscription. Everything's a subscription. Our whole lives are a subscription. But also there are delivery tools that you can use to safely send ARCs to book reviewers and readers, and such as BookFunnel or Story Origin. And I actually don't know if those are subscriptions or if those are per book. It probably depends on whatever type of account you get, depending on how many books you have under your belt or wherever you are in your author career. Continuing with the marketing, there's ads on Amazon, Facebook, and wherever else you can get ads. I can really only think of the two places. Then there's also social media scheduling tools. If you want to save yourself some time on your social media accounts, you can go through Hootsuite or Buffer, or I don't know, there are other places to schedule. You can bulk make your social media posts and schedule them, and that'll save you a whole lot of time, but you'll be spending more money. And then there's also just general subscriptions such as Canva, Adobe Illustrator, BookBrush. Those are all tools that will help you create promotional images for your social media and your website, and likewise. And then finally, book merch or branding merch, because while that will make you money, you need to, pay to create it. So that's fun too.
Obviously, this is a list we're making. I should say Rachel made this. She just went mental, and it's great when she goes a little crazy and just writes everything. This is all about the cost of things. If you're a new writer, please don't just see this list and go, wow, I need to pay for these ads and I need to buy this thing. Certain things are free, or at least have a free plan, such as Canva has a free plan, Buffer has a free plan. Other things that have got completely out of my head. Certain contests are free. We're not saying you should automatically throw money at them. We're saying be aware that if you want to use some of these products or some of these services, they can have costs. Like I used Canva's free version for ages. However, as things got busier and we created the podcast and we create a lot of graphics, it made sense to pay for the subscription. The same with Buffer when we ran the hashtag game for the Merry Writer on Twitter. We needed to like post 4 or 5 times a day, so having the paid Buffer account worked in our favor rather than you can put 3 things up at once. So always look for the free versions, but don't dismiss the costs, because sometimes what you get from the extra, the charged version is worth it. But again, think about your own books and everything and whether it's worth this. Don't just automatically go, oh wow, I need all of this thing. Just step back a bit. But
no, I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning, because Ari's right. This list is not extensive. Like, you don't have to do absolutely everything on this list. And a lot of these things will be trial and error, like the ads, for example. If you want to give ads a shot, see how it works for you. And if it doesn't, you never have to do ads again. Like there's no, this isn't me saying you absolutely have to, spend money on all of these things. And also, this list probably is not exhaustive either. I mean, I'm sure there's way more things that we're not thinking of, but this was just a brain dump of my thoughts. And here we are. So I have one more section of expenses to talk about. And this is, the most important stuff that, again, you may or may not need to buy, at least not in the beginning. As you grow as an author, these are things that you should definitely think about getting. But again, we're not lawyers, we're not accountants. So take this whole episode with a grain of salt. These are just throwing ideas at you. So let's talk about the miscellaneous business thingies. Software. You're probably going to want to buy bookkeeping software or buy, one of those bookkeeping books, like a physical book. And that'll help you keep track of your money, your expenses, your income. And it's just good for any business. You can do it yourself, or you can hire a professional to do that for you, which leads me into having a business team. Again, if you're an indie author, you may not necessarily need this, or you may grow so much as an indie author that you'll need this eventually. Or if you're traditional, a lot of these will maybe come with the contract, maybe come with the traditional publishing house. I'm not entirely sure. But if you're able to build a business team, and yes, this is a cost because you need to hire these people, get an accountant, get a lawyer. Some people have assistants, personal assistants, virtual assistants, social media assistants. You just anybody to help you lift some weight off of your shoulders so that you can focus more on writing. And also a publicist or a digital marketer. That's all I could think for the business team. I'm sure there's more people that you could add to your team and hire, but that's all I could think of at the moment. So let's move on to legal stuff, because that's fun. We're absolutely in a position to talk about legal stuff. You can register your author business as an actual business, such as getting an LLC. And I don't know about other places in the world, obviously, but in the United States, if you get an LLC, this will protect you from stuff. Ari can probably explain it better than me. But if you do hire other people to join your team, having an LLC is good, because an LLC is what you need if you have employees. So you got to keep that in mind. Or you can register as a DBA, which is doing business as, and that's a much, much smaller fee than an LLC. Or you could also do a sole proprietorship, if I'm pronouncing that word correctly, I think. I don't know. And that's obviously gonna help you with your taxes and fun stuff like that. And I think when it comes to taxes, if you have the money to set aside a certain amount of money each month, and then when tax season rolls around, you have that little bit of money saved up to pay taxes, that's a good idea, because then you won't be losing a chunk of money whenever tax season rolls around. And that's not always easy to calculate, which again is why it's always a good idea to consult with an accountant or a lawyer about these things. Something else you might want to think about is getting anti-pirating software, such as Muso. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not entirely sure. Neither Ari or I have ever used it, at least not at the time of this episode releasing. But we have heard other authors using it and they like it. So hopefully it's a good program. And with, all the AI stuff that's happening, having anti-pirating software is a good idea. Obviously, AI is not the only thing that can steal your work. Other people can do it too. So definitely something to keep at the back of your mind whenever you release your books, if you haven't already. And finally, it'll be a good idea to get author insurance, which I'm not going to deep dive into because we did discuss this in episode 255. So I will also link that in the description below. So more business thingies that are a little more fun is that you can hire a photographer to get professional headshots. You can hire a graphic designer to make you a logo for your writing career, your website. You can also get business cards and hand them out at conferences after making connections with people. If they want to exchange information, having business cards will be an easy way to do so. I don't know how many authors actually carry business cards around with them, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have them. I don't think you need to buy, 500 at once. But I guess if you're making it big as an author, then yeah, why not? Use your better judgment on that. And also, having a professional email address is a good idea. Do you need it? No, not necessarily. However, if you have a website hosting and unique domain name, they probably will give you a professional email address added onto that. So look into that as well. I mean, I still use my Gmail account for most things. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to do everything on this list. But finally, one other expense that I do want to talk about, which is kind of like an expense, but also kind of like income, is your savings. If you have a day job and you're trying to save up money to start this author business or to publish a book, paying yourself every week or once a month is a good idea to help you save up money for your business, for your book, whatever. So in a weird way, it kind of goes in both categories, both income and expenses, because it's a personal expense for you, but it's kind of like income for your business. Whatever you earn from your books, you can take a certain percentage of that and save that as well for the next book or for any marketing or whatnot. And you're kind of paying yourself, if you will.
That's a good point. Never even thought of that, but yeah.
I think that's the easiest way that you can save up for your books. And I think I mentioned it in the book budgeting episode. If you pay yourself, and I want to say that I know it's not easy for people to pay themselves, especially in this economy. And if you try to make just a small amount a week or even a month, whatever, and you skip it now and then, that's totally okay. Like, don't stress about it. But if you do have a little extra money on the side, it's never a bad idea to just move that into a savings account for your, oh God, bank accounts. We didn't even talk about that. If you're making it big as an author, you probably want to have a business bank account.
If you're doing it big. I personally wouldn't get a business bank account unless you were making it big, because they add extra charges on. And if you can get away with, obviously there's benefits to it. You get extra benefits to it as well. But yeah, I think a lot of things, it needs to be the bare minimum before you get to, I'm going to spend a lot of money. I'm going to quickly run over a couple of things. As Rachel mentioned, registering your business. Again, definitely think about different countries. In the UK, just in case, because you'll be surprised how many people in the UK don't know this. If you start a business, even as a hobby, you have to register with HMRC, which is our tax thing. You don't get like loads of time. Well, I'll just do it as a hobby for 4 or 5 years, and when I make it big, no, you have to register, and they will come after you for back taxes if you don't. And it's not hard. It really isn't hard. The limited liability, the LLC is limited liability company, and it's designed to limit personal responsibility for the owners regarding like company debts and everything. And if something goes really wrong with your business as an author and you end up bankrupt because you get sued, who knows, or there's like a legal dispute, the LLC protects you, the person, and protects your personal assets. So if you get sued, they can't come after your house or your car or your personal bank accounts, things like that. It is something to consider. It's one of those where it is a bigger cost. So you can start small. But again, I think as you get on as a business person, it's not a bad idea to look into and speak to someone, because again, it's just a protective thing, a costly protective thing. But let's be honest, if it went wrong and you weren't protected, it's an even bigger costly thing.
I appreciate you explaining that, because I realized that I said I'll let Ari explain, and then I kept talking. So thank you.
Oh no.
Thank you for going back to that.
I was ready and everything. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna. Oh no, she's carrying on. Fine. She was on. You're on a roll. You're on a roll. You need to go. Otherwise, it messes everything up.
On a roll, meaning a lot of word vomit for this episode.
No, it's not.
Hopefully you guys are keeping up, because I'm not.
Seriously, people, I have gone and copied the whole list into my own file to check, because it's like she put so much information on here that I didn't even think of. I'm like, wow, I need to keep an eye on this stuff. Software for your business. As someone who has run a business for quite a few years, I'm just saying, yes, big bookkeeping is helpful. It is costly. Well, it's not costly, but it can cost, especially at the beginning. I personally would recommend you get yourself a nice Excel spreadsheet for each year, your tax year, and have all the tabs that you need. So you'll have your incomes, your expenses. If I use the UK as an example, because I'm in the UK and it's easier for me, when we do our business taxes, especially if you're a sole trader, which is what I am. So this is not your LLC, because then you need an accountant and a chartered accountant, and they deal with a lot of it. But you need to track your sales, you need to track your expenses. Sometimes you need to break those down into things like tools, stationery, postage, software, things like that. You also need to make a record of your bank interest that you get. You need to make a record of any donations that you make. I am struggling to try and remember what else I put on my taxes. And what I would do is I'd have a tab for each one, list everything, have code numbers, and then have your formulas at the end that literally tally everything up, and it allows you to track. Are you spending more on expenses than you are getting sales? What are you doing? And it just keeps everything organized. And then at the end of every tax year, you open another file for the next one. And as long as you're tracking everything and you're very clear on who your vendors are, the dates, any receipts. We have to do that in the UK. We have to keep them, even if it's physical or digital. You need to keep receipts. You need to be tracked on the off chance you get audited. Used to work at an auditor's, so I know what happens when they come after you. But yeah, so you can do a lot of it on Excel. However, the bigger your business gets, the more pieces it gets. So obviously you're mostly a writer. If you start doing courses, if you start doing merchandising, if you start going to workshops, you're talking at workshops and you have speaking events that you're being paid for, this adds more and more. That can get a bit more complicated, and that might be when you want to go for software, but you'll be surprised at how much you can do just in an Excel spreadsheet. But again, back it up. Don't just back up your novels and your ideas, back up your business information and your accounts. And I say this as, again, I was on a HMRC tax call years ago, because people were saying, are we okay if we have digital receipts? And the HMRC agent was very clear, saying you can keep digital receipts, but if you lose anything, if you have a computer crash or anything, that will not protect you and we will come after you. So back it up, back it all up, seriously.
Yeah, I was going to say you should keep your receipts too, obviously for yourself, but in case, I think you can write stuff off on your taxes too. Like if you get a new computer and you use that for work, like I think technically you can write that off, at least in the US. I've never done it. I don't know how to do it. It intimidates me and I don't want to get flagged if I do it wrong. So I've never done it. But yeah, it's just good to keep all of that stuff. Be a paper hoarder. Okay. It's okay to be a paper hoarder sometimes. And I think this is with the whole bookkeeping and the financial piece, the accounting of it. This is where it would be a good idea that if you can find a course to take, an accounting course or a bookkeeping course or whatever, that would be a good idea, because even if the course itself is a little pricey, it will save you money in the long run, that you can kind of DIY your own bookkeeping until you get big enough or you get stuck to the point that you just really don't know what you're doing or you don't understand certain things. And you can kind of put off hiring an accountant for a little while. But it also wouldn't be a bad idea to have a consulting meeting with an accountant as well, and start building that relationship, just in case if your goal is to be a full-time author and eventually that's something that you would probably need to do just to, save your own butt in the whole legal world.
I'm going to make one quick point. I don't know what it's like in the US. We actually have, when I signed up for when I registered my business, I ended up getting on the mailing list for HMRC. And every now and then they would send out a webinar where they would talk you through certain things, and it was completely free. So it might be worth looking and seeing if your local tax organization has an official YouTube channel or webinars, because a lot of times they are actually giving you information for free and it's coming right from the horse's mouth rather than third party something. But if you can't get that, then definitely what Rachel says, find some good courses. Don't wing it and don't just listen to what other people have said and they say, oh yeah, it's definitely okay to do X, Y, and Z, because maybe it is, but if it isn't, that's not a great source and it won't protect you if the tax man comes for you.
Yeah, like don't listen to the Mary Writer podcast. It's not a good source when it comes to like finance.
Wait. Do listen to the Mary Writer podcast when we say don't listen to us for the full tax advice, because we're not giving tax advice. We're just telling you go and speak to tax people. Why are you telling people to stop listening to us, Rachel? Oh my God.
Because it's funny. I mean, no, everything Ari said is absolutely correct. You can definitely like look up your city or town or your state or whatever, like wherever you are. They probably do have resources for you that are free, because ultimately, I assume that they want you to succeed. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that, because we all know that taxes are stupid and stuff like that. But yeah, you got to be smart about it. Take your time with it. Don't just do a quick Google search and see what pops up first. Actually do your research and think about it before you do anything. I have rambled on for far too long, and I still have a few more things to say. Essentially, this episode is all about, budgeting for your author career. And I just gave you a whole list of expenses that you may or may not pay or, put on your expense list. So how much does all of this cost? Well, who the hell knows? I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do from this list. And there are probably things that Ari and I didn't even think about that would be on the expenses list. If you're doing book merch, that's going to vary. The delivery tools, depending on what software you use for certain things, that cost is going to vary. So you can go through this list. You don't have to do everything. Do outside research as well. Make sure that Ari and I are actually giving decent advice. Again, we're not accountants or anything like that. So do your own research, and you can look at everything on this list and decide what is right for you and when. Because again, if you're just starting out, a lot of this stuff may not necessarily be needed. Is it a good idea to get author headshots professionally done? Yes, but you can also do it yourself. Do you need business cards right away? No, probably not. You got to sit down, and this is where having a business plan in place will be good. If you want to be a full-time author, you need to sit down and think about your business goals and what you want to do and how you want to accomplish them. And that's where this list comes in. Pick and choose what is right for you and when. But I do want to end this on a semi-positive note and talk about income for a quick second. And here are some things that you can earn from your author business. Book sales and royalties, obviously, because the whole point of having an author business is to sell books. Merch for your books, for your branding, whatever. Crowdfunding, should you decide to go through the Kickstarter route. Subscriptions, readers can also give you money through Ko-fi or Patreon to help you save up for your next book or whatever it is you want to do. Those awards and competitions and contests that you submitted to, if you win, chances are you're going to get money as a prize. Freelance work, if applicable. It's hard to become a full-time author. Like, that takes many, many years. Doesn't matter if you go the traditional route or the self-publishing route. So if you want to keep sticking to writing, then doing freelance work such as ghostwriting or content writing or anything like that, that will also bring in an income. And then, of course, if you get sponsorships or your affiliates with, certain software that you use, that can also bring in an income. And I know that list is so much shorter than the expenses, and that's where the savings comes in. It's very difficult to save up for these things, but a lot of that income will, it all cycles through. And I know it sounds intimidating. I mean, it is intimidating. And there's probably more on the income list as well, but I feel like a lot of authors that are especially just starting, they probably have day jobs. So that's also a huge income piece that isn't necessarily going into your writing, but if we're just talking about the writing, that's where we are. So yeah, I think I've covered everything that we thought of. Ari, if you have any closing thoughts, go for it.
Honestly, the only closing thought is just to literally repeat myself again because I love doing that. Because if you've listened to this podcast, you'll know that. A lot on this list, there are free options, and especially if you're starting out, it's like when you've made some sales of any of your books, you might have money that you can put back into your author business if you manage to pay back all the expenses you've already cost. However, there are so many free things you can do beforehand. Like we're talking about marketing, and it was like, well, there's so many things you can do that you can pay for marketing, like ads and everything. But there are so many free things. So make a list of this stuff, keep an eye on it, but always try and do as much free that will work for you as possible. And then prioritize where you want to spend the money because we're not millionaires. Well, I certainly don't know about anyone listening, but I can't imagine a millionaires listen to this. But we're not millionaires. We have to be very careful and pick and choose. Certain things you might want to prioritize more than other things. So obviously, you're not going to be able to support everything on this list. It's just to give you an idea of if you are growing your business, if you are growing the author life, and you can afford an assistant, that is a cost, but it's also a useful thing. If you can afford an accountant and it's useful to you, that's a good thing. But again, there's a cost. If you can manage it on your own and do a good job, great.
And Ari's right. And honestly, with the whole accountant thing, if you have a friend or a family member who's an accountant, pick their brain. I have a friend who's an accountant, and I've bogged him down with many, many questions about what I need to be doing or should be doing or whatever. And he's more than happy to lend a hand. And, if there are workarounds to these. I'm not saying you should cut corners, but Ari is right. A lot of these programs have free trials or free versions, and you can slowly build your way up to the paid options if that's a route that you want to take. So again, we're not lawyers, we're not accountants. These are just things that popped into my head that are expenses when it comes to being a full-time author, but they're not expensive. Not every expense is going to pertain to everybody. So that's something that you need to use your better judgment on when it comes to you and your books. I'm so sorry for all of the word vomit. I wrote a really long list and I did a bang up job explaining it. So before we leave, if you want to learn more about us and listen to our rambles, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. And now we're going to turn it over to you guys. Do you have a business budget set up for your author career? Do you do any of the things on this list? Did we forget anything? Let us know your answers in the comments and we'll chat about it. Remember, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Next week, we're discussing words you should cut from your manuscript, or that you can cut from your manuscript. To ensure you don't miss that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. And as always, thank you for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Color Coded Notes because it helps us feel productive. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.